hours of questions the last night.
Well, my name is Gary Krantz. I'm the mayor of the city of Sheldon. I have just one subject I'd like to talk to you about because I'm actively trying to bring fiscal responsibility to the city of Sheldon and pull our debt down. In doing that, I've worked diligently with you three guys over the past years. As one of our major upcoming debts is going to be finishing a Basin 3 project, okay? And we borrowed all the money, put in all the other ones. And this one, when I came into office, we were, here's your 10% grant. You raised 90% of the money out of the people that are, getting blood out of turn. I said, no, we can't do it. So I met with my Department of Ecology. I met with the governor. I met with you guys. And I said, we need more help. We got that 10% up, over 50%. If, when you go back, now I didn't bug you this year, Gary didn't drive over every day, now you remember that. Okay? So now, I want to complete what I started. We can get this almost 100% paid for through the grant process because we got to stop borrowing money. And so, I'm looking for another $2 million. I'd love 3, but okay. $2 million is just fine. Okay, and you are the 3 guys that can get this job done. It would help the city of Shelton because as the economy's growing, I just want to stop borrowing money. So you know my story, it's the same thing, but I will come over and visit you more often this next session because this is the budget session. So, do you think that's a good idea for the city of Shelton to stop borrowing money and try to get more help in that last basin project?
Yeah,
Absolutely. I gotta say, these guys will probably agree with me. Gary's been a leader on this. Here's a guy who got in his own car, he drove around the state to small cities and got support and came back 2 years ago with a coalition of small cities that are having the same problem that Shelton is. They've been convinced and forced, basically, forced by the Department of Ecology to take out extremely expensive loans for infrastructure. Infrastructure improvements are needed, sure, but the price has been unbelievable. And Gary's come down almost every day. We bought him lunch every day. One of us has had to buy him lunch every day for the whole session. But I think it's paid off, and I hope we can make some improvements again next year. Because we did get $1.5 million for Shelton last year, and $1.5 million for the welfare system as well. So
always remember there's somebody worse off though.
Yeah,
so Republic on the other side of the state, town of 800, they got like a $10 million. I mean, something similar. I mean, do that now. So on your, I'm not putting.
We
it's a big issue.
We represent those.
Yeah.
We have the sewer fund.
No, and Gary put it
part of
together.
our group. They like us.
Okay, the 20 minutes is up.
Okay. I'll just go on with on ecology. I finally, after multiple meetings with ecology, I got them to admit that some of their pushes and their policies are causing inflationary pressures on these projects to where we can bring the project scopes down and still protect the environment, appropriately treat the water. So they're at least starting to admit that now that they're doing that, and they also would like to have some more funding so they can award grants, so they can say they're sorry to the local jurisdictions that they put this kind of pressure on. So we'll keep the pressure on.
Thank you.
Great. Kathy?
Kathy McDowell, Commissioner of Finance for the City of Shelton. I have one question about charter schools. What was the governor's thinking of just being neutral and going ahead and passing it? Saying charter schools is okay. He didn't go on one side or the other. He just says, I'm gonna pass it.
I'm not a psychologist.
I want. Do you guys have any idea where that came from?
it all comes out of the 3 letters, WEA, Washington Education Association. He doesn't want to lose their support. So the legislature in both houses reinstated charter schools with a new funding proposal that hopefully satisfies the Supreme Court. This is a very small number of schools, primarily in Seattle. But the governor did not sign the bill. He let it go into law without signing the bill. That hasn't been done in 10 years, 10, 12 years. So he just didn't want to slap the teachers union who told him not to do it.
So it's interesting too that the governor didn't know that that's how that system worked, because he originally threatened he said he was going to pocket veto 27 bills. He still was operating under the Washington D.C. mentality where if you don't take action it gets vetoed, and then he realized, oh, I actually have to veto them, and so he learned that lesson and then figured out the charter schools he can take a no stance. So he had a Civics 101 in a 2-week time span there.
Okay.
So I can't speak to the governor's mindset, but I would have to agree with Senator Sheldon on that. It's probably why WA is going to sue again. Now, I got to tell you, I sit on the Education Committee, the K-12 Policy Committee. There's 80 alternative schools that we fund out of the opportunity pathways. If the Supreme Court rules again, then some very good institutions are going to be put in jeopardy for their funding source. So I think it is extremely important that we reaffirm that the opportunity pathways can fund these alternative schools. We have one in the 35th district, which is Washington Youth Academy. It's a boot camp style education environment that is really turning these kids' lives around. It's so much so that we're considering a second one in the state of Washington because the need is so large in Washington state. It was one of the most exciting times I had in the legislature when we had the majority in the House. The House Republicans had the majority because 5 members of the D caucus came on board. I don't know about you, but it was probably the most thrilling 3.5-hour debate I've ever had. We ran every amendment was our amendment. Every amendment was rejected was ours to reject because it's very important that we recognize this alternative pathway. Now to the W, what I say to the WEA is if we can find a school model that isn't overburdened with all these regulations and can be tighter focused and more local control, I tell the WEA, let's just upscale it, if it works, to the rest of the public school system in the state of Washington. So it gives us a great opportunity.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Steve, you had a question back here?
I'll stand over here so you my question is, Senator, you came up in our commissioner meeting about we had 500 families that had to give up their children due to drug and alcohol in our community, not just Mason County. And this is just up to this point in the year, so we're expecting even more. The whole drug issue, cannabis, the sales of cannabis, where's that money going? And how can that money help turn this around in our community?
Right. Well, we are collecting some tax revenues from the marijuana sales, and I asked the Liquor and Cannabis Board, which is called now, to rank Mason County. Where are we? And we are fairly low in retail sales. King County, of course, obviously big, but we're number 5 in producers and processors. We're less than 1% of the population, but we're number 5 in producers and processors. But there's a lot of jobs that's created, I guess. But Steve, one of the things that we talked about in the county commission meeting yesterday was we had to appropriate additional money for indigent defense to represent children in dependency cases. So these are children that are being removed from the home, and we have to give them an attorney. Last year, I forget the figures exactly, I think we had 140 or 123 cases at this time. Now we've got almost double that. When we did the math, figuring out how many cases will the Department of Social and Health Service bring in our Superior Court, and 99% of those cases that come forward are successful. The kids are, at that point, removed from the home. And because most of the times there's more than one child in the home, we're going to have 500 children removed from the home this year in Mason County. That's an amazing number of kids. That fills an elementary school. That many kids that need foster homes. And what happened before was DSHS was like a triage situation. They were concentrating on the kids that were 10 years old and under, and now we're trying to bring in the kids that are older that are in the home. And it's just heartbreaking what's going on. But it's going on in a lot of, every rural county has this problem. But at least I think now we're starting to realize it more, we're putting more money towards it. And Commissioner Jeffries is doing a great job with the mental health money that legislature appropriated this year. We've got some new opportunities there. So thanks for bringing that up, Steve. It's not, it's a great sunny day, it's a wonderful thing out there, but still we've got 500 kids out there this year that are going to need foster care and a lot of help.
We talk about all the awesome successes that we're having right now. it is a real downer on a beautiful day with all our successes to talk about. You know that my background, so I'm a professional firefighter. Our heroin cases right now are up 300% year over year, and we see that skyrocket just continuing to go. Part of it is legislature took a hard stance on the overprescribing of opioids, and they find out now that heroin is relatively inexpensive and very easy to get. Terrible drug. It breaks people's hearts and it tears families apart. I think we're moving, I've been talking to Commissioner Jeffries quite a bit, I think we're moving on a wraparound sort of service because we don't know if somebody who is drug and alcohol dependent or opioid dependent, are they treating an underlying mental health disorder, and usually they are. So what we need to do is get them into kind of a 7-day holding pattern. The first 7 days, the most important days in anyone's recovery to try to, and what we do now is we bring them to the emergency room. That's just really not the place to do that. So we need, in our community, we need to understand that it's becoming epidemic. We really need to do something about it, and it starts with those first 7 days and a place for the first responders to bring them. And I think we're doing a pretty good job moving down that direction.
We're working on it.
Great. Patty?
So Representative Griffey, I want to thank you for your leadership on the wildfire issue.
Oh, thank you, yes.
And
I didn't mention that. Thank you, Patty.
No problem. That's obviously near and dear to our hearts, and here on the west side, we really don't think about wildfire as much as, it's definitely not in the news like it is on the east side, but more to come there, and I'm interested, I would love for you to talk a little bit about what you see as the needs.
Sure.
And also, I think the question of accountability with the Department of Natural Resources is kind of an unpopular suggestion, but I'd like to hear about that too.
Tom Dent, Eastern Washington representative, decided to put together a wildfire coalition. I came to it somewhat late. I mean, I don't know why, because our offices are right next to each other. But he says, Dan, you're a firefighter. Why don't you? I don't know how to answer all these questions. And I'm like, absolutely. So now I'm the co-chair of the Wildfire Caucus. We've identified that DNR fights fires, or doesn't fight fires, differently than almost any other state in the union and most provinces in Canada. And when they're doing something completely different, we got to ask the question, why are you doing it different? We asked them, why don't you put your time and efforts into pre-fire mitigation, making sure that we have healthy forests, making sure that we can log down timbers. We know that our private logging firms would do that for us. We will get excise monies for schools and local governments for that, fire districts and those sort of things. We can burn off some of the lands and not worry so much in certain times of year about what that effect is going to look like. And then we can early detect and rapidly deploy air assets. And all of this, when we were talking to DNR, this is what every other state does. DNR is like, well, no, that's not what we do. We're like, why isn't that what you do? So to that end, yes, Patty's right. We are working with the Boeing company on a really neat drone design, for lack of a better term, that can stay airborne for 24 hours. We can put it up in an area that is expected to have high lightning strikes. We can have that just roaming around, and it's got FLIR radar on it, so it can see heat blooms. It knows what the temperature is, so we can know kind of the size of the fire. And we can early deploy air assets. And what we're trying to do is get more assets in inventory. And I'll tell you, and I know I'm going along for a long time, but this is really a passion of mine. It became a passion of mine. The entire West Coast, we have about 200 air assets that we share, and that goes clear into Canada. And at any one time in our biggest fire season, we had 10% of the air assets that we thought we really needed to actually put out the fires. What we want to start doing is working on a fixed wing program in Washington State, so we actually own the assets. We figure on the downtimes, they will pay for themselves because we're going to lease them out to all of the areas that don't have those capabilities. And we would like to have some more rotary assets. We also would like DNR to push for and have the local fire commanders that see the local fires be able to deploy that air asset early. It'll keep our fire service back, it'll get our fire service firefighters back in service quicker. We'll put the fires out before they become large fires. And to wrap it all up, we really believe after a year of really grilling DNR, they forgot how to fight wildfires in Washington State, and it's time to really change the culture there. And we're putting a lot of pressure on there. One of the ideas that we have is to change in statute DNR's mission to pre-fire mitigation, early fire detection, and early deployment of air assets. And so that's where we're at with that.
That's great stuff.
Thanks, Patty.
We just had our first fire, incidentally, this last weekend.
Yeah.
And the local fire district put it out.
Yes.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Carl Dennison, Commissioner at Mason PD1. Dan, you're right on. As a retired Forest Service, you're right on track.
Well, thank you. At least
The initial attack has been pathetic.
Yeah.
There's project fire after project fire that could have been put out with a squirt gun if it got.
Yeah.
My question is softball for you guys. Carbon tax. We got the president passed a clean air rule that we're all going to have to comply with, and now the governor following suit with his state clean air rule, which is going to force businesses out of state. You can get credit under his rule under the draft, but reducing your carbon footprint by closing down your business and shipping them overseas.
Which, what?
And then we got the carbon tax that everybody's going to get a vote on. The cumulative impacts of these are just going to kill industry in this state if it all comes together. So I just wondered what can be done. Can you guys get the governor under control and beat that down and do away with that, or what?
Well, you can help with that in November.
Yes.
But, the carbon tax, I mean, the way he originally proposed it would add $1.17, give or take, a gallon to your gas tax, which, would be catastrophic, especially for areas like this. But I just, let's put this in the right context, first of all. No one's against the environment. I get tired of this political play that always happens. Oh, you guys hate the environment. That's not true. But let's look at what's going on. Our carbon level in this state is at 1990 levels. This state has been a leader, but the way the talk is, you would think we're Gary, Indiana. No offense to anybody's from Gary, Indiana. But, so let's put that into that right context. And secondly, there is no perfect clean power source. There just isn't. Solar is 19, but solar energy has 19 toxin chemicals that have no half-life. They're here forever in the production of it, and wind has its issues. It doesn't always blow, and some people don't like the dams for other reasons. And, I look at it, we need to always be advancing. We can't be playing this game of picking winners and losers because, I really want this industry to succeed or this particular company to succeed because they supported me politically. And we just need to get away from that. Use sound science and what's working. Recognize that this state's been a leader. And if you wiped out the entire carbon pollution of Washington State, that reduces worldwide carbon pollution by 0.001%. It's a rounding error for China. And that's the reality of it. So let's recognize, first of all, we're a leader. We've been doing things right, and if we institute policies like this, high carbon polluters, there's 12 of them in this state under this plan. 2 of them are the University of Washington, Washington State University. So guess what happens to tuition?
And I'd say too, some of these things you see on the ballot, I don't think are passed, but they're always designed to get a particular group out to vote during a 4-year election. So I just don't think this carbon initiative is going to pass, but we've worked so hard just to even get hydro recognized as a renewable resource, and we still haven't got there. It's silly.
So I'm going to run the hydro's renewable bill one more time next year. It needs to happen. We couldn't even get incremental hydro done this time. I thought we were going to get it done. We actually got it through the House. It didn't make it. Next time we're gonna probably put both bills up, incremental hydro and hydro is renewable. But one of the flaws in the governor's decision-making tool, the commission that he put together the study, they didn't put what the auto industry has expected for fuel economy standards and emission standards by the 2020 or 2025 date. And if you put that, overlay that on his map, our carbon sequestration is still going to go it's still going to go down at a very fast rate, just by the natural tendencies of people to buy vehicles that have higher fuel economies and that sort of things. Yeah, and electric and all those sort of things. So it is dangerous for him to implement these policies when he doesn't have sound data to base the policies on.
Jean? So I kind of-
So this is more of a federal question, but I know Nicholas is here, so he could probably pass the information along. So we all hear that small business is the backbone of our country. I just want you to know that when I wrote the check on Monday, small business is getting squeezed more and more and more. It's harder and harder for small businesses, family-owned businesses to stay in business. Our tax structure needs to be reevaluated. I mean, it's horrible. And I've been an accountant for a long time, and I've seen over the last 10 years, more and more squeezed out of small business until there's not a lot left anymore. So if I can send any message to our Congressman Derek Comer is to get on board with that, look at that, reevaluate that, and see what you can do about the backbone of America, which is your small business.
You know, I've been working on a B&O reform in the state, and it's, you know, both parties have screwed it up. I mean, it goes back to the 1930s, and, you know, you have 85 plus years of, again, picking winners and losers. And so this B&O system that we have in the States is so convoluted. And I'll get to the point, though, just I tried working on a reform bill, and really it was, let's open the box and see what happens if we make changes. And some of it was very positive, some of it was negative, and so back on the drawing board. But you know, one of the ideas I'm toying with is let's have a $2 million exemption, and then you pay B&O above that. You know, tell me that that's not going to help every small business in this state. Larger ones are going to complain. You know, so we're going to get rid of, you know, some of the carve-outs that have happened. But I think we need to go towards that system, and we'll keep plugging away.
Yeah, I'm glad that Drew's working on those reforms. It's necessary in Washington.
Chief Lee?
Hey, I just wanted to thank you guys for your support and touch on your heroin that you talked about and detox and the mental health facilities. Commissioner Jeffries and I met with a company yesterday called U.S. Investing. It wants to open a private 75-bed hospital in Lacey for mental health and detox possibilities. Lacey's having some issues, and it's the not in my backyard issues.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give my commissioners and the county a heads up. I offered them a free site in the city and the county if they could get here. But they're talking about operating satellites out here in Mason County with a big bed in Lacey.
Yeah.
So again, thanks for your support on that. If the governments can't, the counties and cities can't build these facilities, maybe the private entities are the way to build the hospital.
Yeah, and one of the problems is finding people to run them, to operate them. It's hard.
We're in a big shortage of clinicians.
Big shortage on clinicians and others, nurses, doctors.
Definitely preaching to the choir on that issue, though. But I just encourage people. I mean, stand strong. You look at Seattle and even closer, you know, Olympia, and the acceptance that's done by local officials, and we don't have that in this county. But you know, it's like, well, we'll do a needle exchange for you, and here's a safe place to shoot your heroin. What the hell message is that sending? You know, and we have that going on. I mean, Olympia has serious issues. You know, I mean, we've got them too, but I mean, they invite it. And I just encourage you, you know, let's resist that. That's not going to do it.
We're having some resistance and some support issues, and so I got the sheriff and I got support, sent a letter over to Commissioner Jeffries is going to talk to the commission about supporting these private entities coming in and helping out with mental health.
Yeah.
Well, that, absolutely have to do that, but let's make sure, Chief, we don't support methadone clinics. It was a failed experiment in Europe that basically you transition a person from one opioid addiction to another synthetic opioid addiction. It doesn't work. There's new, better chemical treatments. Working with Dr. Yu on some of those things, our Mason County health officer, about the right response. And I know our medical program directors in the EMS field, he is working heavily with Dr. Yu on what are we going to do about this. Specifically from the response perspective, what are we going to do with these people? Are we going to get them in definitive care? I'm really proud of the Veterans Homeless Shelter because I think as far as one demographic that we can't afford to see in a homeless situation who has chemical dependency issues for a lot of them and also has mental health issues, it's our start down that path. I think we're going the right direction.
Yeah, one more item, just real quick. We, on the Senate Transportation Committee, we worked on what do we do with the jungle in Seattle underneath the freeway, right? It's owned by the Department of Transportation. So we appropriated and passed both the House and the Senate $1 million to clean up that area and fence it in. Right now, the city of Seattle doesn't want, they want the money, but they want to use the money for social services and open it back up and actually bring utilities underneath the freeway so people are more comfortable living there. So there's just a complete disconnect with how do you help people that need help or how do you enable people? And maybe you saw this article in the Seattle Times just recently with Danny Gleason at the Westnet, talked about the Union Gospel Mission in Seattle, down Union's at Pioneer Square. About a third of their beds are empty every night. Because if you come there, you're going to have to do some work, you're going to have to clean up, you're going to have to take a shower, wear some good clothes, you're going to get some assistance, but you have to give up the drugs and get on a road to recovery. So we got to work very hard on these issues.
That's about it. We're out of time, I think, for questions today. So, join me in thanking